Have you ever worked so hard for something, prayed for it, made dua for it, and still nothing happened? You did everything you could. You planned, you tried, you waited, you prayed, but the result was still not in your hands. And that's where most of us struggle. Because we want to trust Allah, but we also want to control everything. We say, I have tawakkul. But deep inside, we're constantly thinking, what if it doesn't work? What if I fail? What if I lose this person? What if my future doesn't turn out the way I imagined? Today, I want you to understand something powerful. Tawakkul is not giving up. Tawakkul is not sitting still and waiting for miracles. Tawakkul is doing everything you can and then trusting Allah with everything you cannot. And when you truly understand this, your relationship with anxiety, failure, uncertainty, and even success begins to change. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're talking about something that can completely transform the way you live your life. Tawakkul, trusting Allah while taking action. Because sometimes we misunderstand trust in Allah. We think tawakkul means, I'll do nothing and Allah will take care of everything. But that's not tawakkul. Tawakkul is when your heart depends on Allah. While your hands continue to work, you make the effort, you take the steps, you prepare, you learn, you try again. And then you accept that the final outcome belongs to Allah. And psychologically, this mindset can be incredibly powerful. 1. Tawakkul breaks the illusion of control. One of the biggest reasons we suffer from anxiety is because we want certainty. We want to know exactly what will happen tomorrow. We want to know if our relationship will work. We want to know if we'll get the job. We want to know if our dreams will come true. But life doesn't give us those guarantees. And when the brain faces uncertainty, it often starts creating endless scenarios. What if this happens? What if that goes wrong? What if I make the wrong decision? And suddenly, you're physically sitting in one place, but mentally you're living in hundreds of possible futures. This is where tawakkul gives the heart a different perspective. It reminds you, you are responsible for your effort. Allah is responsible for the outcome. Think about that. You don't have to control everything. You only have to do your part. If you are studying, study sincerely. If you're building a career, work hard. If you're trying to improve yourself, keep growing. If you're making a decision, think carefully and seek guidance. But once you've done what you can, don't destroy your peace trying to control what was never in your hands. That's tawakkul. Pangalawa, tawakkul doesn't mean you won't feel fear. Here's something important. Having tawakkul doesn't mean you will never feel scared. You can trust Allah and still feel nervous. You can have faith and still cry. You can believe in Allah's plan and still have moments when you don't understand what's happening. Faith doesn't mean you never experience fear. It means fear doesn't become your leader. Imagine you're standing at the edge of a new beginning. You're scared to start. You're thinking, what if I fail? Tawakkul doesn't say, you have nothing to fear. It says, even if I fail, Allah is still with me. Even if this door closes, Allah can open another. Even if I don't understand the path, Allah knows where it's leading. And that changes everything. Because now, you're not moving forward because you know exactly what will happen. You're moving forward because you trust the one who does. 3. The Prophet taught us to take action. There is a beautiful lesson in the famous hadith. See your camel and trust in Allah.
The meaning is profound. Don't leave your camel untied and then say,
I have tawakkul. Take precautions. Do your part. Then trust Allah. This is the balance so many of us need.
Because there are two extremes.
One person says, don't need to do anything. Allah will handle it. The other says, everything depends on me. If I don't control everything, everything will fall apart. Tawakkul brings you to the middle. You say, I will do my best, but I know the result is not entirely mine. That mindset creates a powerful kind of emotional freedom. You work hard without becoming obsessed with the outcome. You dream without becoming a slave to your dreams. You care without believing
that everything depends on you.
4. Tawakkul helps you handle failure. Now let's talk about failure, because this is where Tawakkul becomes incredibly powerful. Imagine you worked for months for an opportunity. You prepared, you gave it everything, and then you didn't get it. Without Tawakkul, your mind might immediately say, I'm a failure. My life is over. I'll never get another chance. But Tawakkul gives you another way to see the situation. You can say, I did my part. I tried. I gave my best. And this result was not written for me. Does that mean you stop trying? No. You learn, you improve, you try again. But you don't allow one closed door to convince you that Allah has abandoned you. Sometimes what feels like rejection is redirection. Sometimes what feels like delay is preparation. Sometimes what you desperately wanted was simply not good for the person you were becoming. And sometimes you may never understand why a certain door closed. And that's okay. Because Tawakkul means trusting Allah even when you don't have all the answers. Panglima. Tawakkul changes how you see delays. Maybe you're watching this video because you're waiting for something. You're waiting for a job, waiting for marriage, waiting for success, waiting for healing, waiting for your dreams to finally become reality. And you're wondering, why is Allah making me wait? But here's something to remember. A delay is not always a denial. Sometimes you're not being delayed, you're being prepared. Think about a seed. You plant it in the soil. For days, nothing seems to happen. If you looked at the soil, you might think, nothing is happening. But underneath the surface, roots are growing. Just because you can't see progress doesn't mean Allah isn't working through the process. Your job is not to understand every moment. Your job is to keep doing your part. Keep making dua. Keep taking action. Keep improving. Keep trusting. Because Allah sees what you cannot see. 네. The psychology of letting go. One of the most beautiful things about Tawakkul is that it teaches you how to let go. Not because you don't care, but because you understand your limits. You can control your effort. You cannot control everyone's opinions. You can control your choices. You cannot control every outcome. You can control whether you show up. You cannot control when success arrives. You can control your response. You cannot control everything that happens to you. And this realization is psychologically freeing. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack. Inside it are things you were never meant to carry. The future, other people's opinions, the past, every possible outcome, every what if, every fear. Tawakkul teaches you to put some of that weight down. You say, Ya Allah, I will carry what you have asked me to carry, and I will leave the rest in your hands. And suddenly, your heart becomes lighter. 7. Tawakkul is action, tambah dua, tambah acceptance. So what does real tawakkul look like in everyday life? It looks like this. You have a dream. You make a plan. You take action. You work consistently. You make dua. You seek advice. You learn from your mistakes. And then you accept the result. If you succeed, you say, Alhamdulillah. If you fail, you say, Alhamdulillah. Not because failure doesn't hurt, but because you believe that your story is still in the hands of Allah. This doesn't mean you stop feeling disappointed. It means disappointment doesn't destroy your faith. You remind yourself, maybe this is not the end of my story. Maybe Allah is protecting me from something I cannot see. Maybe something better is being prepared. And even when you don't know the reason, you choose trust over despair. So, if you're going through uncertainty right now, I want you to remember this. You don't need to know how everything will work out. You just need to know the one who is in control. Take the step. Make the effort. Tie your camel. Make your dua. And then let your heart rest. Because tawakkul is not saying, I know everything will happen exactly the way I want. Tawakkul is saying, I trust Allah enough to believe that whatever happens, I can face it with Him. Maybe the door you're praying for will open. Maybe another door will open instead. Maybe your timing will change. Maybe your path will look completely different from what you imagined. But remember, Allah's plan does not need to make sense to you before you trust it. Sometimes you understand the wisdom later. Sometimes you never understand it in this life, but you keep walking, you keep praying, you keep trying, and you keep your heart attached to Allah because your responsibility is not to control the destination. Your responsibility is to take the next right step. So today, ask yourself, what is one thing I've been overthinking that I need to surrender to Allah? Then ask, what is one action I can take today? Do that one thing. Take that one step and leave the rest to Allah. Trust Allah. Take action. And let Tawakkul give your heart the peace that control never could. If this message touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And remember, you do your part. Allah does what you cannot. And whatever Allah has written for you will never miss you. Until next time, keep growing, keep believing, and keep trusting Allah.